Wayne, I am super pumped to have you back on the channel today. I invited you here because as a person that started photography in the 90s, color negative was basically everything I had access to, other than, occasionally being able to shoot in the past, 20 years, being able to shoot E100 today. But my experience primarily has been with color negative and launching this new series where we're going to explore Kodachrome slides, Exacta slides, and just all this film that I have found. I wanted to chat with you today because you do have quite an extensive history with Kodachrome, and we've talked about it a lot.
One of the things that I was thinking of when you were talking about your collection of images that you have, and the fact that going out and making photographs with Kodachrome 25, you had to want to do it. You had to want to do color that was, I would say, faithfully reproduced. Being able to go in to the Kodak facility in Los Angeles back in the day and drop off a lot of Kodachrome 25 or 64, and literally you drop it off by 9 or 10, you go out, you grab a sandwich at a deli that was close by, come back 11:30, 12, and you got all of this film back that was, it was like fresh bread. It was nice and warm, but they would, you get it in there and they would turn it around and you take it with you.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
Taking that for granted and having the ability to get back to the office and laying out the transparencies, grabbing your loupe and taking a look at what was going to be, acceptable, culling through what you had. It takes a lot of reflection and what I took for granted and where we are now and how we work today. But back in the day, using a couple of things that, it's like everything else, what the quote unquote, the workflow is or was. And it still is, because if you're shooting Exacta today, you still need to look at that and evaluate it. But Kodachrome 25, pretty amazing. A beautiful grainless film, having the ability to render exactly what you saw. And if you as a photographer did your thing correctly, the images, that you could get are incredible because there's no grain. They were beautiful.
So the collection we're going to look at today, this is pretty special collection. This all came in this, little tin box here. This is one photographer's collection from 1950 through 1952, at least the ones he kept. Every one of these slides has a label on it that tells us where they were and the date in which
So this is actually what he culled and what he put together as the best of whatever he had photographed. Okay.
Before I turn the table on, because you've never seen these.
I've never,
right?
Yeah, correct.
And I've seen these many times at this point, and I'm going to just lay them out. These are not in any order. Some of these are connected together, but because my kids were in here yesterday looking at these and they didn't put them back in the order I had them in, they're just kind of random. So I don't know anything about this guy. I think that's going to be the first thing that'll be exciting about this video is we are looking at somebody's life. I have no clue who this guy was. This collection came from an estate sale. I have no connection to this guy, his family. I don't know his name. I know what I assume is his wife's name, Lee, because he wrote me and Lee on a bunch of these slides throughout here. I know that he's American because he wrote everything in very clear American English, but this entire collection is in Europe. All the images are in Europe. I believe he lived in Germany. He may have been in the military or connected to the military because I recognize what looks like on-base housing in one of the photos. At least I believe it's base housing because I went to high school in Germany and my family was military. It looks just like where we lived on a military base. And he has some soldiers in the background of a few photos, but that just could be because, there was a huge American presence in Germany. And so in some of these Germany slides, we've got soldiers in the background. I know nothing about this guy, though.
Just as you were speaking, in just looking at this, so it's apparent that the photographer, he carried his camera everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So, and in looking at the photos...
You'll like this one because you can see his camera on here. If you take a look at it, you'll see him with his camera, which means he had a friend that went with him everywhere, too. And I think his friend is how he's in a lot of these photos himself. I had some people on Facebook. I took this photo and I put it on there and I did a crop in of the camera and I said, what is this? And most people believe it's a German camera, Exacta.
And you have it digitized. Is it sharp?
Yeah. I mean, it's sharp as you can get, with these old slides, but I mean, it was taken with a,
Well, if it was
sharp
properly
camera.
focused, you could go huge on a transparency.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's because there is no grain. And
Right.
let's say he was focusing, whoever made that photograph, if they were focusing on the subject, but their focus was off a little bit,
Which is
short, that would put the camera in focus.
right.
And if you can see that in the digitized copy, that camera would be sharp.
Yeah, so this is an example of a photo that is soft, but it looks sharp here. But when you actually look at the details, he's off focus a little bit. It's a portrait of this guy and whoever made that photo of him, whether it was Lee or if it was a friend. It's just a touch soft because when I digitized it, I was really bummed that it wasn't like, tack sharp on focus for him. But going back to, what we were talking about with developing and what, basically what kind of made this so tricky was that they had to put this film through different color stages, which essentially would colorize the film, right? So you had your cyan, you had your magenta, and what I've heard is that today, when you look at Kodachrome slides, some of them are very heavily like magenta still. And what I've read, and I would love to get your thoughts on this, is that over time, a lot of the colors, if it wasn't stored correctly, would fade, but magenta doesn't fade like the other colors do, which is why you get some slides that are essentially pink at this point.
When the process goes through, and if they're not stored properly, and storing them like that, they're brittle.
Yeah.
And
they
there
very
will
much
be
are.
a color shift because, moisture, condensation, heat, cold. And just by as brittle as these are, that already says they weren't stored properly. But
Right.
But
I mean, for all I know, these were in
they're
someone's
still-
storage unit. Or attic
but they're
for
still
40
really
years.
good photographs because the person who was making the photographs had a camera everywhere. And yeah, you're right. He's in a photograph, so somebody else took it.
Yeah.
Which means he was probably, as a couple, they would
Right.
go out and
Yeah.
explore Europe while they were there.
Yep.
So that's pretty
And
cool.
I imagine, when I see the photo of both of them together in the canoe or in the boat, and then I see this photo, which was that same set, and she's in the photo, so you can tell that was taken with his camera.
And the gentleman in the
Yep, and then the
military.
military, yeah. So it makes me wonder if the person that took the photo of them in the boat might be, because he's smiling like he's in the photo, like a friend. I don't know.
But this
I mean,
photo.
we're totally making up stories at this
No,
point.
not at all. This photo. I mean, you want to make a 4 foot by 5 foot photo of her?
Yeah,
It's there. I mean,
right.
and that's the beauty of it because the fidelity of the colors. I mean, the film is really brittle,
Right.
but the photo is still there. And
Yeah.
if you digitize that, you could make a really big print of that because
I have this as 61 megapixels.
there's no grain at all in that image. So
Yeah,
the flesh
it's
tones
wild.
and the eyes and that's the amazing
You
part.
mentioned the skin tones. I mean, take a look at this one. This is one of the cleanest examples of skin tones I feel like in this set here.
And just so you're aware, normally you would just put this on it and look at it.
Right.
But when I put pressure on the mount, it
yeah.
tensions.
That's why I got this really big one, so I could literally put it over the whole
exactly.
thing without touching it.
If you find something interesting, you focus, you compose, you frame your image, you create layers of interest within it, like that photo, because they're holding those big old pretzels.
Yeah.
There's people in back, there's the people on the side. It creates dimensions of you don't look at the photo and then there's so much to
Yeah.
keep looking at, and it maintains your eye looking at the photo. That's a good photo.
All right, guys, just a quick interruption to tell you about today's sponsor, the Photo app. Go ahead and grab your phone, open up your app store, or just click the link below, download the Photo app, and go ahead and make your account. And be sure to follow me. I'm at Dave, super easy to find on there. But go ahead and hop on the Photo app because this is like the early days of Instagram, back when it was all about just sharing our favorite photos, the photos that we were proud of, things that represented our vision long before we became advertising products for Meta. It's literally just going to be an app about photography and serving photographers. Now you can use this app completely for free into the sunset, but there are paid features that are coming down the pipeline, and the best way to set yourself up for those paid features is to become an ambassador of the photo app in these early days. By becoming an ambassador, you get that founder's badge and all the paid features that'll come down the pipeline, like next month when they launch portfolios. The photos that are throughout this video today are going to be on the photo app, so it's a great place to take a look a little further and see these photos for yourself. And of course, all the other things that I might feel inspired to post on the app. So be sure to download it, join up, become an ambassador, and keep up with what's going on over at the photo app. So thanks to Photo App for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back over to it. Let's talk about this one for a minute, because this one is a very high contrast scene. He's working at, it says me in office. It's in 1952. So whether he, businessman, he also has here my Dodge in 1952. So this is probably from the same possible role. And with this Dodge photo, this is what I was saying, looks like military housing, or maybe it's just German housing at the time. So this is the same role. Here's another one in his office. This one's backlit.
Well, let's talk about this photo. He's sitting in his office with his feet on the countertop. Very, very stylish. Blue blazer, dark pants.
Oh yeah, he's looking fly. He's got that yellow socks on. I mean, he's got it down.
And there's a huge crystal cigarette lighter. Yeah. But in looking at this photo, the thing that's sharp is his left eye. Mm-hmm. But take a look at that. And here's the interesting part. Again, if you have that image scanned, and Capture One, Photoshop, Lightroom, open up the shadows ever so slightly on the shadow side of his face. That thing is tack sharp.
No, and
there's no grain.
And that honestly was the most surprising thing, is that when I scanned this, all the details in the shadow were there.
But look at the image, left, right, in front of him, the foreground, the background.
It's incredibly sharp.
I mean, it is a really, whether you want to call it a documentary or reportage kind of, there's numerous elements that date the photo. I mean, you just look at it, and you just don't look and then go away.
No, because there's so many interesting things on
exactly.
It. From the green fountain pen to that massive ashtray.
Right. I mean, there's
the telephone.
So I would suspect he probably put it on a tripod and made a photo of himself.
Yeah.
Or had his friend come in and do that.
And then look at his cars here, outside of his house, and this is his apartment. It says me in the apartment, Frankfurt. So we know he lived in Germany.
Yeah, this definitely looks like, I would say, typical military housing.
Right, that's what I was thinking too. But I never see him in uniform in his whole collection. Now he says it says, I'm guessing that it's Frankfurt 1951, because he does, he has written Frankfurt in other places, like this casino here. Check this one out. This is an incredible photo.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
But it looks like, look at this one right here. Some casino in Frankfurt, 1951, yeah. But the woman in the foreground walking with her shadow cast on the sidewalk, that is just an incredible shot.
It's really interesting, because Portrait 160, Portrait 400, I like either of those, because I know that the skin tones, and here again, I'm biased. Shooting with a glass,
of course.
So I already know what the lens and the camera is going to do, but the skin tones are going to be beautiful. Mm-hmm. And the grain minimal, 160 or 400. It's something, because, and I've said this many, many times before, so some people, this is nothing new. Grain doesn't bother me. Blur doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. We are not inanimate objects. We're always moving. So I don't have a problem with grain or blur.
Right.
I would rather make a photograph that represents that slice of time, and that's that. Mm-hmm. But looking at the photo, just the subtlety of the shadow as she's walking, because that shadow does not touch the tree to her right.
This is he's a very good photographer. Yeah, just objectively, this isn't, I don't think this was his job, because he's kind of everywhere, but the guy definitely had some skill. I think you'll like this one. I mean, yellow is his color, because he's got the yellow socks. Look at him in his little shorts here. And this is another one from that same set on the boat.
The framing, the composition. So I'm almost thinking, whomever took the photo, he already lined this up and he said, I'm going to stand here. I want you to.
Yeah. And you know what? That's not uncommon even for, I do that with my family often or with other friends. And I mean, that's a common practice. You mentioned blur, right? Here's a couple of photos that are blurry, right? And you don't notice that they're blurry until you look closely, but take a look at like this one. Look at the lighting of this one, and the woman is in the light. Like that is an incredible composition, but it's blurry. But he chose that one though to keep.
Yeah, but so I'm thinking the rainbow, and look at the sky, how it's the right upper right hand is dark, lower left hand is light. And then if you look at the lighting on the buildings, the tree just looks like cotton candy.
And here's one from Italy. It's like a street photography photo. After you look at that one, take a look at this one. It's also blurry. And
I feel like I'm critiquing somebody else's work.
No, it's cool.
And I would have to say, you're a pretty darn good photographer.
yeah, I know. I wish I knew who this guy was. And if you're watching and you have any leads,
This scene right here looks like the classic scene where that guy is kissing the girl in Italy and everybody's staring.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
it's
this
like
is pretty-
incredible shot.
This is pretty impressive. And I would probably say he's on a cable car or a trolley. That's a pretty great shot.
Yeah, I love that one. In fact, to me, I was showing this to my family, and they were like, "That's a painting. That looks like a
Yeah,
painting."
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So here's one that's got a major color shift, right? It's desaturated. It's kind of magenta compared to these other shots. And this is maybe, and so was this one from Venice. This is a different, like, looks like a color shift as well.
But
what has happened here with this one and this one?
Well, I would say to begin with, just the exposure is just a tad overexposed. If you scanned it in software, you would just say,
Yeah.
and it would fix it.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, but here again, realizing how brittle they are, yeah, it has lost some of its luster just by the way it was stored.
Right.
Oh God, that's like a James Bond movie.
I know. It's wild.
I mean, that's the just Venice
Yeah.
boat. Holy cow!
Check out the woman and the kid in this one. I mean, these are just these like candid moments that he just popped off while he was out enjoying Italy.
That really gives it some scale as well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
And this is another one like where he mentions Lee, in Frankfurt. This is September 1950. I found the building behind interesting because it's, missing a roof. And when I first saw this photo and I didn't read it was Frankfurt, I was like, oh, there's somewhere like, southern Italy or Mediterranean, because it looks kind of Mediterranean, but it's actually Germany and, only a few years after the war.
Yeah, it looks like they just haven't put that roof back on.
We had mentioned earlier, I was showing you, like this one's cracked. This is the Eiffel Tower. The top is cracked. And this is from the same roll because he's got a shot of himself at the Eiffel Tower.
The colors are there. The composition's there. It just, everything looks really, really awesome. And even that photo being,
Yeah.
it just looks really simple, like somebody just,
Right.
But when you look at it, there's a lot.
There's so much going on.
There's a lot going on. There's the subject.
Right.
And it's framed, composed. There's layers to it that they just multiple planes of interest.
Yeah. So whoever this guy was, talented photographer, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, always had a camera and was always making really good photos. And I think that's the thing that I can't see where he got better. No, everything is like he or whomever he was
shooting
traveling with.
Yeah.
They were making some really nice photographs.
Yeah, and it's really special to have a collection like this. And one of the reasons I wanted to digitize it all is because it is brittle, it is falling apart, and this doesn't exist anywhere else.
Everything that is there that people haven't seen compared to what, you've culled and we've looked at, I'm okay with blur. I'm okay with grain.
Yeah.
So even if something is not 100%, if you look at it and it's like, oh, that's an awesome photo.
Yeah.
Then it is an awesome photo.
Right,
But everybody,
exactly.
everything is going to speak differently to the viewer. But the person that made the photos, these photos are pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm blown away, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this series with this guy's collection, because they are incredible. Well, Wayne, thank you so much for taking a look at this collection. This was a really fun conversation for me to learn more about Kodachrome and just, even this whole experience here. Big thank you to the Photo app for sponsoring today's video. If you want to see some of these, be sure to hit the links below, and I'm going to be posting these images all the time on the Photo app, so be sure to check those out. Wayne, thanks so much for being
Thanks for having me back again
Yeah,
for the
man.
conversation. I appreciate it.
We'll do it
was
again.
Really good.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.